Buenos dias, amigos. It is I, the man who stood up to Chuck Norris and ran away. El Ojo. Welcome back, as today we have a bonus special episode, and we review La Mujer Murcielago, directed by a cornerstone here, Rene Cardona. This film is currently on Pluto TV at the time of this recording, so go check it out if you haven't already. Some of you Lucha fans may be wondering, hey, isn't La Mujer Murcielago, or Batwoman, a DC property? Well, legally, you are right, Lucha fans. The first Batwoman, Kathy Kane, actually first appeared in Detective Comics issue 233 in July 1956, a full 12 years before this film was released. But the DC was not using her at this time. The second and more modern version of the character, Kate Kane, first appeared in 52, issue number 11, in 2006. La Mujer Murcielago could also be a ripoff of the Batgirl. The first person who took on that mantle of the Batgirl was Elizabeth Kane, who first made her appearance in Batman issue 139 in April 1961. However, the most famous and definitive version of the Batgirl is the incomparable Barbara Gordon, who made her first appearance in Detective Comics issue 359, titled The $1 Million Debut of Batgirl, published in January 1967, which predates this movie by a full year. In fact, Barbara Gordon's Batgirl became such a hit, she made her first appearance on the 1966 Adam West Batman series, where she played the actress Yvonne Craig in Season 3, the episode Enter Batgirl, Exit the Penguin, which first aired on September 14th, 1967. However, I would argue La Mujer Murcielago is no sidekick, as her costume more resembles the Adam West Batman, but instead of blue-gray, we have purple and gray. So, would it be fair to compare her as a female Batman, and not a reimagining of other female Bat characters? Well, this film actually released in 1968, a full 2 years after the Adam West Batman movies. So why didn't DC at the time put a kibosh on this blatant copycat of the Caped Crusader? If the internet is to be believed, it is because it was not a financial success and is a lesser known property with little cultural impact and a limited cult following, i.e. La Mujer Murcielago was not deemed an important enough property. I mean, just look at DC how they treated the unreleased 2022 Batman film. Despite being in post-production, it was shelved as a tax write-off. However, this film does list Bobb Kane and Bill Finger with writing credits. So, is this film an original creation that reinvents the Bat person, or will it be a second-rate knockoff? With a 4.8 on IMDb, let's find out. Title card: A surf-tastic theme plays, 2 images of painted waves. Opening shot: waves crash against the beach, while a man and a boy are fishing. But a man sees a body face down drift onto the shore. The man and the boy carry the body onto the beach and turn him over. And we cut to a radio saying, another athlete's body found on the beach. Meanwhile, at the Secret Service, 2 agents are mad at the yellow journalism from the radio. But similar events happened in Macau, Hong Kong, and are now happening in Acapulco. Another man, Roberto, walks in and says La Mujer Murcielago is willing to help. We meet La Mujer Murcielago, a woman from La Capital, whose wealth inspired her to fight for justice, and she mastered all sports, like shooting guns, riding horses, spearfishing, which is actually shot pretty well, and of course, the sport of lucha libre. Some of you may be asking, hey, isn't she wearing the same mask as Lucy from La Horripilante Bestia Humana, but instead of a red suit, it's purple? Well, that's a great question. Anyways, the average-looking guy says, wow, I can't wait to meet her. The chief reminds everyone you can only see her with a mask, because if she is seen without it, she will be eliminated by her enemies. The Secret Service plans to convince the lucha promoter to host matches in Acapulco to attract the killer. And the chief asks, when will she arrive? Mario Robles says, mañana, or tomorrow in English. Cut to a plane and a woman parachuting to the beach. Our hero, La Mujer Murcielago, gets in a car and drives down the boulevard and goes to the police station, where reporters stand by and remark this must be a hard case since they called in La Mujer Murcielago. La Mujer Murcielago and the Secret Service go to the medical examiner and ask what happened. The medical examiner explains the victim is missing her pineal gland. They deduce that this must be some kind of medicine man. The medical examiner says he did a great job. You can barely see the incision. The chief asked, what is his goal? To which the medical examiner says, we will have to wait until he makes a mistake. La Mujer Murcielago interjects, or he commits another crime, while ominous music plays in the background. And holy foreshadowing, Batwoman, we are on the boat Reptilicus, as scary music plays. It honestly just looks like a tour boat, painted green, but whatever. Then we enter an evil lab. We meet Dr. Williams and his assistant, Igor. Very creative. And jumpin' Jehoshaphat, Dr. Williams is played by Robert Canedo. Yes, Robert Canedo, who played El Médico Asesino, not the luchador, but the villain in the film Las Luchadoras contra el Médico Asesino, which we reviewed in episode 2. Go check that out if you haven't already. They are running some experiments in a fish tank, but Dr. Williams says, no reaction. We need another luchador for an experiment. Igor asks, why luchadors? Dr. William rants and explains, luchadors are the only athletes with supreme physical strength and the perfect specimens, just like he'd always dreamed of. I feel like there's an app to find men like that. Anywho, Dr. Williams tells Igor to find strong men. At the lucha gym, a blind man walks in. We will call him Shades because it's never specified that he is blind and he walks around with shades and a walking stick. He convinces some of the luchadors to order fish. Meanwhile, La Mujer Murcielago is working out and everyone stops to stare at her. La Mujer Murcielago almost breaks someone's arm because she is so strong, so she decides she's trained enough. She goes to the locker room and calls Mario Lopez, but he is on the lookout at the beach. La Mujer Murcielago goes to a secret base where Norm, the agent from earlier, is on the radio, and they overhear a conversation. Shades calls Dr. Williams and tells him he has another order for the afternoon. Apparently, the secret base is under the gym because La Mujer Murcielago runs out of the hallway, but Shades has already disappeared. Meanwhile, on a small boat named Lily, one of the luchadors is fishing when he is suddenly attacked by 4 scuba divers. Dr. Williams and Igor look on from Reptilicus. They put the luchador on a bigger boat called Lucy. The henchmen bring the luchador on the boat. Igor tells William that number 1 will bring the luchador, and Williams tells him, hurry. Wait, is Igor not number 1? That's kinda mean, but people often accept the love they think they deserve. Anywho, Shades and the 4 scuba divers bring in victim number 2 and tie him up. Dr. Williams asks number 1 if he had any trouble, but he says no, but La Mujer Murcielago is now in Acapulco, and she may be a problem. Dr. Williams responds with, no worries, we will leave after this operation. Igor puts the oxygen mask on the camera, and we get a shot of the luchador hooked up with wires to a goldfish. And Dr. Williams tells Igor to hurry up. Igor presses buttons, and the professor monologues his plans to create an amphibious man. Kinda feels like this is not the best plan since they absorb through their skin. For some reason, now the fish is a frog. You can tell Igor doesn't really care what's going on because he asks, what do we do with the body? Dr. Williams, being an environmentalist, says, throw him on some rocks. At the Club de Bates, an ocean club, Mario Robles tells La Mujer Murcielago that this is where the luchador went missing. They decide to get drinks. La Mujer Murcielago asks if they were able to trace the call from the gym, and Mario Robles says we were able to trace it to Dr. Williams, a scientist who lives off his yacht, the Reptilicus. Cough. Tour boat. Cough. He is a surgeon who collects fish and has no friends. Poor Igor. I'm guessing he's not a friend? La Mujer Murcielago says we are on the right track, while Mario Robles says he will call the capital and contact Agent Tony Roca to find more information. Isn't that what La Mujer Murcielago is here for? La Mujer Murcielago drives a boat to El Reptilicus, but one of the henchmen says no visitors. She tries to go in by saying, "Come on." But the security says, "Leave." This actually made me laugh, but I don't think it was intentional. Then we see La Mujer Murcielago overlooking the bay with binoculars. In walks in Mario Robles with a familiar face. It's Tony Roca, played by a favorite here, Armando Silvestre. He has all the info for Dr. Williams and the disappearances around the world, and finds out that Dr. Williams is a neuroscientist. La Mujer Murcielago says she could not get on the boat, but Tony says the law must be just. Suddenly, they get a phone call. It's the inspector, and he has big news. The yacht, which is actually a party boat, and not a yacht, is set to sail tomorrow. They do not explain why, but I found out boats actually need to charter their trips to ensure compliance with customs. Back at the yacht Reptilicus, we get something brewing under the sea. La Mujer Murcielago. She uses a scuba scooter to get near the boat. I honestly had no idea these things existed, and it looks cool. However, they miss an opportunity as they could have painted it purple. She gets on the boat without being seen, and it's a good thing she has her face covered. This yacht is not beating the party boat allegation, as the first floor of the boat is just a bar. She explores the boat, but no one is on deck, so she decides to explore the cabins. Look at me going nautical. She finds an office and a conveniently placed thesis titled The Pineal Gland. So La Mujer Murcielago takes it and keeps exploring. She spies on Dr. Williams and Igor for a bit, but she gets attacked by shades and a blue sidekick. Being a competent hero, La Mujer Murcielago escapes by punching her way out, but Dr. Williams tries to stop her. La Mujer Murcielago, being a champion of justice, throws some conveniently placed acid in Dr. Williams' face and runs away, while Igor tends to Dr. Williams. I guess horse riding and archery really helps in the fight against evil, because she takes on 7 men with guns with relative ease. She goes back below deck and throws smoke grenades at 2 of the henchmen. Shades even yells, "Get her! She doesn't have a gun!" after all the men have already been knocked out. And with that, she's finally able to jump back into the ocean and escape via scuba scooter. Dr. Williams, now looking like Two-Face, is mad and wants revenge. I guess he will be staying in Acapulco a bit longer. Back at the gym, La Mujer Murcielago is training. She goes to shower, and for some reason, Shades is at the gym selling gum. Outside the gym, we see a black Thunderbird. La Mujer Murcielago asks her training partner Esmeralda if she wants a ride. Esmeralda, being ungrateful, says no, they're coming for me. As La Mujer Murcielago drives away, the gang flashes a gun at her. But Shades tells them they do not kill in broad daylight, they have a code of ethics. The bad guys get into 2 separate cars and follow along. A bunch of girls walk out of the beach houses, and Shades says no matter what, we will wait. Surf beach party number 1, we get cool music and terrible dancing, while La Mujer Murcielago sits between Tony and Mario. She tells the guys she swears she saw a fish man. She kisses both men and Tony leaves to work. Chema, or the average looking guy, comes to tell Mario he is needed. The guy's not called Chema, but I don't know what else to call him, since they don't actually give him a name. La Mujer Murcielago gets dressed and drives off, but the gang is in hot pursuit. They even wear funny little masks that just cover the eyes. She tries to escape, and the chase is cool. You get a view of Acapulco. Shout out to my buddy Penseno, he's from there. I do like that they swerve to avoid hitting a dog. For some reason, La Mujer Murcielago stops on the side of the road, and Nathaniel Frankenstein Leon jumps out with a gun. He jumps into Mujer Murcielago's car, and they drive away. All 3 cars pull up to a cliff, and Mujer Murcielago, like any woman who is kidnapped, begins doing her makeup. But it's a trap! La Mujer Murcielago's makeup is actually a gun, and even shoots one of the men. Being extremely outclassed, the 6 men listen to her, until one of them kicks the gun out of her hand while she radios Tony and Mario for backup. The men, realizing they outnumber her, drag her to the edge of the cliff. But she escapes and beats them up. This scene would have been way better with music. Police sirens are heard in the background, and the gang runs away. Back at the coroner's office, there's another victim who is missing a pineal gland. La Mujer Murcielago says, "I just hope the next victims are not you or I." Is this foreshadowing? Let's find out. On the Reptilicus, Williams is mad the gang failed. He tells Igor to begin the experiments to radiate the creature by blasting it with bubbles, then grabs a container with no gloves. Wait, if it's radiated, why touch it? The creature is cute. It kind of reminds me of Power Rangers Season 1. Not the 1975 series Super Sentai. I'm sure no one was confused. But I do want to point out that this movie has a tiny monster which is activated to fight the main hero. And although there's no kaiju battle that destroys the city, it is nice to see Lucha Libre being a trendsetter with effects, especially since it often feels like they're playing catch up. Anywho, the gang scuba dives with a tiny pocket-sized monster, or pocket monster, if you will, into the ocean. And there's a strange box pointing at the monster. Once the scuba divers swim a few feet away, Igor blasts the pocket monster with radiation, and it grows. Is it safe to be underwater with radiation? I mean, none of the scuba divers are wearing any protection at all. That doesn't matter. The gang uses a net to capture the orange creature from the Blue Lagoon, but he declines the offer by drowning the gang. Dr. Williams tells Igor to stop and place him under control. A loud pitch is heard, and the orange creature goes to bed. Once on the boat, Williams orders his gang to put the creature in room 102, and orders him strapped. After he monologues his big scheme to Igor, he says he wants a fish woman, and he is a perfect candidate. But Shades looks on in disgust. Two of the henchmen go into the lab and begin poking at the beast. Being the creature is strong, he easily escapes the leather straps. Igor hears a commotion and begins blasting the creatures with a remote. Then Dr. Williams rushes in and saves the creature. Meanwhile, in the ocean, Mario and the attractive woman scope out the boat Reptilicus. Luckily, Igor is by the window and sees the boat. William deduces that this must be La Mujer Murcielago. Not sure how he would know this since it's the ocean and it could literally be anyone. Williams has an amazing plan to release the creature, who is now called Pisces, into the ocean to attack her. Kind of feels like this should have happened earlier. The creature chases after La Mujer Murcielago in a very anticlimactic chase that feels like it could have been sped up and had more interesting music. They swim through a random fish tank, a school of fish, and La Mujer Murcielago uses a flare gun underwater. Apparently, Pisces, formerly known as the orange creature from the Blue Lagoon, is afraid of fire. To be fair, I would be afraid too if I was a fish and there was fire underwater burning me. La Mujer Murcielago yells at Mario, "The creature's chasing me," and Mario asks, "What monster?" as Pisces shakes the boat. Mario, keeping in the theme of the movie, throws gasoline and lights it on fire. This film did not care about ocean life at all. They do have a cool shot of the creature looking at the flames from under the water. It looks awesome. At the bar, they think of a way to arrest Dr. Williams, but describing Dr. Williams' plan to use luchadors turned fishmen sounds insane. So Mario thinks it is best to keep secretly investigating for his warrant. Back on the boat, Williams has another plan. He will send number 1 to place a tracking chip on La Mujer Murcielago. Once they have their second creature, they will go to another country for more donors. He will create hundreds of soldiers to take over the world. Yes, hundreds. To take over a population of 3.6 million. Match number 1. A tag team match with La Mujer Murcielago and a girl in red versus 2 random opponents. Number 1, or Shades, looks on. La Mujer Murcielago and her partner win with a double upside down tarantula. I couldn't find the name of this move, but if you know what it's called, leave a comment below. Outside the arena, Shades places a tracking chip on La Mujer Murcielago while fans surround her. Back at La Mujer Murcielago's apartment, they serve drinks. Again. Mario says, "I will spend the night." And La Mujer Murcielago says, "Okay." Later that night, La Mujer Murcielago finds a tracker and scans it. Knowing it is something sinister, she places it on her nightgown. Later that night, Pisces, the orange creature from the Blue Lagoon, emerges. I guess he doesn't have land legs because he walks awkwardly. Or it could be the fact that he walked on a bunch of cobblestones. Thank the Lord, Mario is there, asleep on the couch while the creature clomps all over the living room. La Mujer Murcielago screams, and that finally wakes up Mario, but he faints after being shaken by the creature. Thankfully, he wakes up and remembers he has a gun, and begins shooting at the creature. Could have done that earlier, but what do I know? I'm not a super spy. Mario catches up to them on the beach and starts wrestling, but Williams calls for Pisces to return. Dr. Williams is confused as to why Pisces hasn't returned with the girl. I'm still confused how Pisces tracked her. Was it radar? This movie never explains, so it's kind of pointless pondering. In a sensible move, Dr. Williams realizes La Mujer Murcielago works with Agent Mario Robles and thinks it is best to capture Mario to have La Mujer come to them. Which is the first thing in this movie that makes sense. The next day, the Chief and Mario see a guy on a motorcycle laying on the side of the road. But it's a trap! The gang captures Mario and the Chief. Remember kids, do not help people. It could be a trap. For legal reasons, this is a joke. At the locker room, La Mujer Murcielago is pacing and opens a locker. It's a note. We got him. La Mujer Murcielago gets a cool close-up shot of her in shock. She drives back to the bar from earlier. Meanwhile, on the boat, Dr. Williams monologues his plan to use La Mujer Murcielago. What a terrible host. He just goes on talking about his life, his plan, his enemies, and for some reason, La Mujer Murcielago gets captured by one man. Feel like this could have been done at any other time in the movie. You have an orange creature, you have a gang of 6, but sneaking up behind her is a weakness. The gang carries La Mujer to the lab and places the tracker on Dr. Williams. Even before he does surgery, he keeps talking for like a whole minute about revenge, and he says, "Igor, take off her mask." I guess that was a signal because here comes Pisces. He smashes the door, smacks number 1. The creature destroys the lab and attacks William, while Mario and the chief escape. Were they able to do that the whole time? The lab catches on fire, and they use real smoke because the set is black. You can't see anything. The trio escaped on a tiny boat from earlier. As they drive away, a tiny replica explodes in water. Back at the bar, Tony doesn't understand why the creature attacked. La Mujer Murcielago walks in the apartment and in a smug tone says, "No mystery, I used the tracking chip from earlier and place it on Dr. Williams." Suddenly, La Mujer Murcielago screams. It was a rat. She fought fishmen, a gang, a mad scientist, but her being a woman means she's afraid of a rodent. Could be a good idea for a sequel. Finn. I think this film was missing campy music and a themed villain to mirror the success of the Man-Bat of DC fame. Sure, I suppose him being Two-Face is a theme, but it has no impact on him or his story, or personality, or motivation, or his monster, or his boat. Dr. Williams, like most villains of this era, want to rule the world for money and power, which of course is motivation enough for anyone, sure, but Williams' motivations seem hollow in a retrospective lens. This film is fine, not terrible, not great, but I don't know if I would recommend this film. I understand that the scream in the end is meant to humble our hero, like those one-liners from Alfred in B-Taz, but it reduces La Mujer Murcielago to a damsel in distress. La Mujer Murcielago may not be a cult classic like the 1960s Batman series, but I do commend this film for allowing the Luchadora, or protagonist, to save the day. Most of the last Luchadora's films have the Luchadora as a title character, however they often play second fiddle to the male leads, and even the comedy male sidekicks. Having a female hero that took on the role of the protagonist and was able to save the day was a good departure from the films that came before it. Sadly, La Mujer Murcielago also marks the end of the Luchadora film era, so we never get to see a new generation of luchadoras take an active lead in film. I left the link to the film in the description below, so all you lucha fans can check it out. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Am I being too harsh on this film? And stick around, as next month we explore Neutron, el enmascarado de negro, because there are a lot more luchas de tres caídas coming your way. Where did La Mujer Murcielago put Dr. Williams' thesis? She had a bikini. How was she going to take it back to the Secret Service? She snuck on by using a scuba scooter. If they had a tool to calm the creature, why didn't they use it to begin with? Was La Mujer Murcielago's hotel room 2 stories?